Get your own chair.
That's fine. I'll stand for a little bit anyway. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Type Moon Universe fan panel.
Yay!
Yes.
Yay.
So, what is everyone's favorite? What's everyone's favorite type of moon? That's an old joke.
What?
So, who here has no idea what type moon is or what this is about? Raise your hand. I believe you. I don't believe you. It's always a Shiro that does that. It's never anybody who's honest.
I don't understand. Do people die?
People do die when they are killed.
When they're killed?
So, who here got into Tsukihime? I'm sorry. Who here got into Type Moon through Tsukihime? Show of hands. All right, good man. Who here got into Type Moon with Fate Stay Night, the visual novel? Okay. Anybody get into Type Moon with the Studio Dean anime for Fate Stay Night? Okay, I did as well. That's how I initially got into it. I discovered the visual novels retroactively after that. Who got into it with? I guess it's everybody, right? It's everybody. That's all the hands. I would go on. Is anybody who's seen Fate Zero? Okay. Who has seen the 2014 Ufotable Illuminable Blade Works anime? Okay. Who has played Fate Extra? Okay. Who plays Fate Grand Order? Let's just get that out of the way. Okay, that's what I thought. So, English or JP? JP, show of hands. Okay, that's what I thought.
What about the Chinese? Is that just me?
We played on the Korean servers like pros. Who here has played the wonderful Fate Stella? All right.
Who's playing Fate Stella right now?
hey, can we show that really quick? I'm gonna reference this during the panel.
You just lost your switch for the next hour?
It's a bit of an addiction, I'm sorry. Those of you that know me know that it's a bit of an addiction. Okay. So, who here has seen the new Fate Apocrypha anime? Obviously I have. I mean, what am I doing standing here dressed like this? So. Alright, so I think we know our audience a little bit. It's always good to ask those type of questions because we do this panel. This is the Type of Universe fan panel. We do this panel every year at Anime Weekend Atlanta and MomoCon. This is our first year at Anime Blast. I also did this panel. Nice. Good job. So
my job here is done.
We're going to start with a little introduction of who we are and what we offer to the Type of Universe.
Children sacrifices.
Yeah. We are, we'll get to that. And then we'll have a brief recap of what Type Moon is and some of their works. You all should be very familiar with that. Then we're going to go past, present, future. We're going to talk about what came out this year, what's relevant to the Type Moon universe now, and then we'll go towards the future and talk about what's coming out and what we can come to expect from Type Moon in the future.
Next week.
And then we're going to open the floor to you guys and ask questions, or let you guys ask questions, because the real bread and butter of these panels is the open forum discussion with the audience where you guys get to participate and talk about, we always get questions like, can Shiki kill a type? Or who would win, Gilgamesh versus type Venus? And questions like that. So we get really interesting, high-level questions about power levels and stuff like that. If you could make an OC servant, what would they be? Things like that. So these are usually the type of questions we get. So think about those types of things. Keep them in your head as we go through this. So quick introduction. My name is Clinton Bradley. I've been a fan of Type Moon since 2010 when I discovered the Studio Dean anime. And I didn't realize how hated it was by some people because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I later retroactively discovered the visual novels and all the other works that were out. And it took the release of the Dean and Illuminable Blade Works movie in 2010 to convince me that I needed to cosplay as Archer, which I did from 2010 up until 2016. And I basically helped manage the Fate cosplaying community for the Southeast, for mainly Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. And so I also cosplayed the slutty version of Archer from CCC, and now I cosplay lovely Shiro Tokusada Makusa from Apocrypha. So again, my favorite works is mainly Fate. I love Tsukihime and the Kara no Kokai and the other works that Nasu has written. I really have a special place in my heart for
Doing big up on screen.
the Extraverse and
No.
what?
Stop it.
Oh.
Okay. That was the only screening.
I have a very soft spot for the Extraverse, mainly Extella. Extella became one of my favorite type of properties, so I'll. But yeah, I'm not sponsored. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Brad. Most people, if they know me through most of my panels, I'm Ortaga Malice on Facebook and most of my differences. I'm, of course, right now cosplaying Bluebeard from Fate Zero. I actually found the visual novel, which was an interesting thing,
Right.
Because it wasn't the edited visual novel, so it was quite interesting to say the least of what happened in it.
It has plot points.
Yeah.
So
They're brief.
I've always wanted to do a bad line reading of the hentai scenes from the visual
They're
novel.
bad. There's some awful dialogue in those things.
Her butt was up against me like a broken piece of squash. It felt so good I wanted to vomit. That's an actual line from the hentai scene.
It's so bad. It's like that. But see, because of lines like that, I'm like, I've got to figure out what the heck this is.
Yeah.
And of course, then you find the series. That has basically nothing to do with the light novels from those scenes, at least. But I've pretty much kept up with most of the new stuff with Fate Apocrypha and everything going on right now. And next week, which we'll talk about that here in a bit. But this was actually a joke costume that I had never planned or thought I would ever cosplay as, because it's Gilderay, who's a horrible mass child murderer, as his actual character. And I was like, I don't think I'll ever do this. And then I thought of the whole super weeb Bluebeard obsession with Joan of Arc, and I'm like, yeah, this could be entertaining.
Yeah.
Because my original cosplay idea was going to be Hercules Berserker. And that unfortunately requires me to get in a good bit of shape I'm not in right now.
Right.
And I'm actually doing a bunch of leather working to make it look really good. And leather working, if you don't know, takes a crap ton of time. And if you mess up, you have to scrap everything you just worked on. Like, all of it. Because it's ruined forever. You cannot undo anything on leather.
So I distinctly remember way back in, because I've known Brad for years, ever since we've been cosplaying and known each other. So I distinctly remember back in 2010 cosplaying Archer at MTAC, and he was Alexander Anderson from Helsing, and we did like a dual wielders, like we'll fight thing. And I was telling him about the series even back then, but it took until it used to be such an obscure franchise, Type Moon, and recently with all these other things, it has blown up into this much larger thing. And I'm really happy for that, even though a lot of people who are hardcore fans from years past get kind of upset that it's becoming more mainstream. I'm loving it because I'm seeing this. It's like seeing your child grow up and be very successful. It's like I sat there and like coddled this thing and raised this thing, and now it's actually really becoming something. So I'm really happy about that. So we're going to go ahead and show a quick video. This should bring you up to, well, this is a little celebration of Type Moon's past works. Can you make it louder? There we go.
Yay, me.
I bought the game series, like, seriously, like 2007, and then didn't watch it until 2012.
Yeah.
Just sat on a shelf.
Oh,
waiting.
man, what a shame. What a shame. Okay, so let's go a brief overview of the Type Moon universe. So, the Type Moon universe essentially is a big canonical mishmash of different properties that are written by Kanoko Nasu, the original writer of Tsukihime and Fate Stay Night. He started out with a bunch of short stories in the late 90s. Who's ever watched any of the Kara no Kyokai movies? Okay, so the Kara no Kyokai movies, or the Kara no Kyokai as a story, started out as short stories written by Nasu, and later went on to be the first Type Moon property that was adapted by Ufotable, which are the lovely animators that brought us Fate Zero and the 11 Blade Works anime, and a new movie that's coming out soon, we'll talk about soon. Who has, let's go really far back, has anybody read Angel Notes? Ah, you're the dude right there. This guy's read Angel Notes, so we might have some questions about that. So that's like the purist test, I guess you can say. I wouldn't recommend going to read it. It is interesting, but Nasu has kind of been inconsistent about what he considers to be canon and what he doesn't nowadays. So the first visual novel that Type Moon produced, with being a computer game with hentai graphics and all that, was Tsukihime in 2001. And then later went on to release Fate Stay Night in 2004. Re-released Fate Stay Night in 2005 with the hentai scenes patched out with better visuals and music. And then we would not get another visual novel from Type Moon until 2012 with Mahosukai no Yoru, which is supposedly a sort of a prequel to Tsukihime because it features some of the same characters. And I personally love Awazaki Aoko, she's one of my favorite characters. So, let's see, what else? In terms of anime, we have, hey, wouldn't it be great if they made an anime off of Tsukihime? It's a shame they didn't do that, right? No, they did make a Tsukihime anime. I've seen it. It's actually not. It's bad, but the worst thing I can say about it is it's just boring. The running joke within the community is there is no Tsukihime anime, so we always make sure to run that joke into the ground every time we do this panel. Again, then it was the Dean anime for Fate Stay Night in 2006, which again a lot of people hate on. I'm personally very fond of it. Studio Dean then made the movie, the Lemon Blade Works movie in 2010. Tamamo! Thank you for joining us.
Go Casters. So can we talk about the unfortunate souls that got introduced to Fate by watching the movie first? Because I've heard from people.
Really, this happened?
I
heard
did that.
from people.
I did that to my friends.
So
I was like, "This is really cool. Watch it." And they came back and they were like, "What the hell did I just watch?"
Yeah. So if you've not seen the movie, it's actually a really good movie.
We're talking about Lemon Blade Works, the movie, right?
Yeah. So it's a good movie. It looks pretty. The story technically does all happen. You're done. But it has so little detail on why all this stuff is happening that it's the same thing as when I talk to people that got introduced to Digimon with the Digimon movie. And I'm like, no, stop this. Like, it's like, if you hear someone go, what should I watch first? Do not answer the movie. Yeah. That is a great way to lose someone, because they're just, I don't know what's going on.
So then we had the pinnacle, the crown jewel of the Type Moon universe for a lot of people, which is the critically acclaimed Fate Zero in 2011. Again, written by Gen Orobochi, who is famous for Madoka Magica, Psycho Pass, and all those other wonderful series.
First few episodes of all those Zero.
Right, the good ones, the good episodes, yeah. So we can thank Gen Orobochi for that. So Gen Orobochi, Type Moon and Ufotable go together like any good combination you can think of. So then we had Fate Prototype was a little spin-off anime they did to kind of reveal what the original Type project was before we had to gender bang King Arthur to make it an Arrow game that males would play. So that's basically what Fate would have been had we not had to change it for the sake of it being a hentai game. So then we have, who here has seen Prisma Ilia? Okay, a few people. I'm not the biggest fan, but apparently from like the second part of season 2 through season 3 gets really good. So if you can just skip all of the bullshit and get to that part, well, supposedly Prism Elia is really solid. Okay. And as far as video games go, Type Moon has the Melty Blood series. Who here's played Melty Blood? All right. So Melty Blood was a continuation of the story of Tsukihime in fighting game form. Do not play the story mode if you can help it. The story mode is bullshit because there are instances where you have to lose a fight in order to progress the story. And the game doesn't tell you which fights you have to do this. So it's pure trial and error. And because this is a visual novel company making a fighting game, we still have like bad end type scenarios, which is really unfortunate. Go ahead.
Losing to certain characters and winning against certain characters.
Right. It's like it's like figuring out the route to take in a visual novel, but it's really frustrating in a fighting game where you want to win every time. So we also have on the Fate side we have Fate Unlimited Codes. Who here's played Fate Unlimited Codes? Fantastic fighting game. I love Fate Unlimited
really
Codes.
Solid.
I always played on the PS2 and on the PSP, which it was released on. But there was an arcade cabinet that had an Anime Week in Atlanta, and I played the shit out of that. I was so happy.
Much fun.
Oh.
Yeah, so cool.
So then we have Fate Tiger Coliseum and its sequel, which
She's
are
in the dealer's hall right now on the PSP.
okay, good deal. There are little top-down beat 'em ups that feature SD style Fate characters. They're okay. They're not really worth writing home about. If you can pick them up for cheap, I'd recommend it. Then we have the Fate Extra universe, which is a dungeon crawling JRPG style game where you get to play as a nameless master in a digital version of the Holy Grail War and pick your servant. And it's actually a really interesting concept. One of the reasons why I like it so much, because you actually go to the library and read to try to figure out who the enemy's servant is. I think that's you don't find out who the enemy's servant is through a series of technicalities. You actually have to do the research and find out. And if you don't have enough information about your enemy going in, they'll hand you your ass. So it's really well thought out in that regard. Fate Extra received a sequel in 2012 called Fate Extra CCC. It was not given an English release because the PSP was a dead console at the time. So why would we release a sequel to an obscure game that nobody bought on a dead system? So I guess it makes sense, but we all would love to get an English translation of CCC. What questions do we have before we move on?
Yes, in the back.
I know.
Speak up a little bit.
Like triple CC, but that was only on a half of the PSP.
Right.
And that's the only way I could play it because we had a regional on the base PSP, which I thought was stupid.
I didn't even know this existed.
I know. Well, apparently PSPs are regional when they get into the States. For me to play for any game that's from another country.
It must be your particular model of PSP because my PSP is completely region free.
PSP 1000.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a 3000 that's region free.
Well, I have I literally had dedicated to playing triple C. It was a fun game since I knew who I was fighting against.
Right.
Because it's the image that I know who I was fighting against. If it was Lubu, I would know it was Lubu.
Exactly.
If it was
Karna or whoever.
I forgot his name. No, Robin.
Robin Hood, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. But anyways, back to you were saying.
Okay, so that pretty much covers the past, everything that Type Moon has made up until now. If any of you are not familiar with any of those works, I'd highly recommend going to check them out, but it seems like most of you guys are pretty familiar with everything I just covered. So now we're going to go to the present and talk about some wonderful things that Type Moon has brought us this year. Let's go ahead and play that next video.
Stella or Stella? Game.
Yes. So, Fate Extella is the third game of the Extra continuity. Was released in November of last year in Japan and February of this year in the States. I really did not think we were going to get an English version of this game, so I bought it on the Vita, the Japanese version on the Vita. And then I got the English PS4 version. So this game is essentially, it's a Muso game or a warrior style game. and it's not made by Koei Tecmo, and it's actually really good. So I would highly recommend playing that if you haven't. You can play without understanding the extra story, although I highly recommend you play Extra 1 at least to understand the story going into Extella, because it is a direct sequel. CCC is kind of like a non-canon side story, so the timeline really goes Extra and then Extella.
CCC also leads to Fox too.
Yeah, which is another rabbit hole. Good call out, though. Good call out. So, Extella recently was released on Nintendo Switch and the PC in July. So if you guys are one of those PC Master Race snobs, you can still play Extella. And I'll be happy to note, the game occupies a tiny, minuscule amount of data. It's like a 2 gigabyte game.
Really?
But it actually has solid 60 frame visuals, even on consoles, and it flows really well, short load times. It's a pretty well optimized game because they had to optimize it for the Switch and the Vita, but the visuals are not so great.
Some of the visuals are kind of rough.
Some of the character
got some
models.
info for you as far as the gaming goes. Because
I'm aware.
Yeah.
We'll cover that. So, the other things that were really important that were released this year was Fate Apocrypha got an anime. So, we totally did not anticipate that happening at all. But at the beginning of this year, we got a bunch, like right around New Year's of this year, we got a bunch of announcements back to back to back to back. We got, and one of them was the Apocrypha anime. So, Apocrypha, and again, who's seen the Apocrypha anime? Okay, I'm going to stay away from spoilers, but we're going to talk about it a little bit.
On Netflix now.
Correct. So Apocrypha originally was a was an idea they had for a mobile phone game. Some of you may be aware of. Scrapped the idea, but decided to make it into a light novel several years ago. And the light novel series was never officially translated, but fan translators have gotten up into the 4th volume online. So if you're interested in reading the Fate Apocrypha light novel, I'll highly recommend it. So they gave the task to A1 Pictures to make us an anime for it this year. So, what do we think about the Fate Apocrypha anime?
Hey, the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
It's actually like beyond the whole joke of Bluebeard. It actually is a fantastically well done series. I'm almost kind of mad because I can't just go and marathon every bit of it like I can the older series. So it's kind of that same thing, but it's very well done. I always enjoy any of the Fate series because they have, of course, all of your ancient heroes to choose from. So it's interesting to see it, and it's kind of another thing to see who they choose on both sides, and you get such a huge amount of them in this because it's not your standard 7 servants.
It's a 14
like 14 servants, and spoilers just mentioning 14 servants.
Yeah.
Right.
So
another guy in this room.
Yeah.
Currently.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm 100% trustworthy. So obviously I must have liked it a little bit if I'm cosplaying from it, right? For Fate Apocrypha, the anime, I do have some gripes. We can maybe come across a little pretentious with this, but I'm sure some of you will agree with me. It's A1.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I can say about Apocrypha as a critique is it is just ugly. It is just ugly. The animation is just not good. And some people say, well, it's ugly compared to Ufotable, which fair, but
Everything.
really pick apart some of those
Sword Art
scenes.
Online, the Fate series.
It looks rough. Everything else, though, I'm totally okay with. And I have a friend of mine who cosplays with me has read all the light novels, and she likes to address where the adaptation succeeds and where it fails. And those are all very valid arguments. Me personally, having not read the light novels, I think the anime is fine except for the visuals. The way they honestly do the story about as well as they could for a story that basically has Fate Zero's pacing. I don't mean literal pacing like in the first episode, but it has Fate Zero's pacing, but you have twice as many characters. So there's no way you're going to get equal character development to all of those characters, unfortunately. So some of the servants just do not get the screen time they deserve. Some of the masters don't get the screen time they deserve.
or any at all.
Some characters like Darnik that are fascinating individuals that have a lot of deep lore about them are not extrapolated upon nearly enough. So it's unfortunate. But the Apocrypha was set up for disaster from the beginning. But as far as the story execution, I really can't complain. I feel like it's overall pretty solid. And what they do with some of these heroic spirits is pretty great. I especially love Vlad, what they do with him towards the end of season 1. No spoilers. It's fantastic. I really cannot be more happy with how
That
they
was a pretty
executed
cool
that.
episode, I must say.
So let's see.
Go English.
Yeah, so I'll touch on that because that's So the English version of Apocrypha was released on Netflix this week. So if you guys have not seen Apocrypha, you can marathon on Netflix in English right now. Again, my biggest criticism of Apocrypha is it just feels rushed because they announced it and then released it 6 months after they announced it. They had A1 of all people produce it, so clearly they were wanting to produce it on a low budget. And then like 6 months after the Japanese debut, the English debut is out for a Netflix exclusive contract. So it just feels rushed to me. Overall, I can't complain about it too much, but it's not without its problems. Okay.
Anime Expo with the English release.
Oh yeah. So that's
because that's where I was going with that one.
Yeah, so the next-
they announced that Aniplex in general said that because of how fast stuff has been getting accepted here without ever being an original release, the actual president of Aniplex Worldwide said they are going to be a lot more expedient about getting U.S. launches on stuff. So in other words, we're going to be a lot closer to what they're doing with Japan. So
Nice.
normally you'll get a Japanese launch of pick a game, any game, and then usually within a few weeks we've got our version. They're going to be doing more like that with future stuff.
Awesome. So myself and Brad and Dwayne there in the back had the wonderful privilege of attending Anime Expo this year. At Anime Expo last year, there was a lot of pressure on the president of Aniplex to release an English version for Fate Grand Order. So they said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to have the English version of Grand Order ready for Anime Expo of next year, and they delivered on that. So this year in July, we saw the English version of Fate Grand Order. And again, show of hands, who plays Fate Grand Order? Notice my hands are not raised. So what is Fate Grand Order? That's an interesting question. So Fate Grand Order is actually one of the reasons why we're getting so many of these other properties. The reason why we got the Apocrypha anime, why we're getting the next anime we're getting after that, is because Fate Grand Order has made Type Moon a crap ton of money. Fate Grand Order is a free-to-play mobile phone game with microtransactions, and that's about the nicest thing I can say about it. So, on the positive,
It's really funny to watch a bunch of cosplayers huddled together trying to run tendrils.
That was hilarious. At Anime Expo, we had all the cosplayers in a huddle. Yeah, go for it.
So, if this ends up going online, I will get you the picture. So, after the photo shoot, suddenly everyone started congruing together of like this group of like 30 cosplayers all huddled together. And I'm like, I wasn't paying attention. I looked over and they're just screaming and then silence. Screaming, silence, booing, silence. And I looked over, they're all playing Grand Order, running 10 drops. And they're just like, all of them staring at one person's phone at a time as they're doing it. So I just come up there as Bluebeard and I'm just kind of like taking selfies with myself and everyone around in the group as no one's realizing what I'm doing. I'm going all the way around them the entire time. And it's funny.
Yeah, and then our Francis Drake cosplayer got so pissed off. She takes off her coat and takes off like her fake boobs and like throws them on the ground. It's like, I'm done.
The fake boob butt.
Yeah, the fake boobs. That was pretty great. So I had the Fire Emblem panel yesterday, and I talked about Fire Emblem Heroes. So I'm gonna have this same discussion when we talk about Fate Grand Order. So let's talk about the positive. Fate Grand Order has done a couple of great things for the company. The best thing it has done is it's made a ton of money and it's allowed us to have all these other works. It's definitely helped modernize and localize a lot of the Fate properties and introduce Type Moon into a much more mainstream audience. The other thing it's done is it has created a lot of great new characters. And a lot of those characters are going to be used in other Type Moon works, such as Altera, who is Attila the Hun, spoilers. You saw at the beginning of the Extella opening. Her design was originated in Grand Order, and it was later reused in Extella. So it's an example of that. The other thing is that some of the story is actually not bad.
Natalie can read it.
Yeah, well, some of the translation is a little bit...
Altria?
I will never get over that.
5 minutes in the day. 5 minutes of the game and you've screwed up your translation. You haven't even gotten past the loading screen.
Yeah, the translation I'm a little on the fence about, but overall, some of the stories are not bad. And some of the routes we go through, which you guys will be going through soon, we just had Okeanos a little bit ago. What's the next one after that?
Well, we're right now doing Nobunaga.
We're doing Gouda Gouda.
No, the next story arc.
Yeah, what's the next main?
Right now.
I think the next main story arc is London.
London, I
If I'm
think.
not mistaken. Yeah, London.
But there's a lot of good comments in it too compared to
No, man. So I was talking with Cody on this one. Probably one of my favorites is still the Dark Joan of Arc. Because
Yeah,
her
yeah.
storyline, like beyond, once again, the Bluebeard thing, it was so cool seeing her storyline of the reason that she's being this evil Joan of Arc is it was just such, well, I won't say it just so the people playing the game won't get it early, but it's a really cool concept with her, more than any of the other story arcs. I really enjoy reading through the story arc of her having your dark Joan of Arc doing all this horrible massacre, and then you've got the light Joan of Arc going through, why the hell am I doing this?
It's interesting seeing a what if of a character, of an actual individual in history. Like,
Right.
what if they, what did they think? Like,
Yeah.
what did they think about what happened?
Yep. So that's about all I can say on the positive side. So on the negative side, no matter what I say that's positive, it's still a free-to-play mobile phone game with
1%
microtransactions.
draws on 5 stars?
Less than 1% because it's 1% every time you do it, so it's never guaranteed.
Yep.
When you think about that, so yeah, it is another gacha hell game. People that I know have spent ludicrous amounts of money on it.
with
Go ahead.
the Tamamo drop, even with the boosted drop rates, I've had people on my friends list who play the game religiously drop $1,200 plus for full sets of Tamamos.
Yeah.
God.
Tomamo.
Yeah. So think about that. You're dropping
Free.
You're dropping enough money for like your mortgage to buy a picture of a character
For like
And
60 seconds of artwork and
Yeah.
the next face.
so I just bought the Grand Order art books. And those are pretty great. That's my supplement for that. I love the Grand Order art books. So I have all the servants now, and it's pretty great. Typical ruler bullshit, right? So so it is still a free-to-play mobile phone game with microtransactions, and I personally cannot abide by that because you are encouraging the industry to keep making more games like this, with showing, like, let's put as little effort as possible, let's milk everybody for their money, and instead of releasing physical copies of actual games that you can actually own. And it's like somebody actually brought this up at the last panel. They said, you hate on Grand Order, but what do you think about Extella Story? And I'm like, Extella Story has an ending. Extella is a game I can hold in my hand that I actually own a physical copy of. That's where I draw the line in the sand there. So, like, personally, this is just personal opinion, and I'm sure you have thoughts on this too. We need less games like Grand Order, more games like Extella. Stop making these free-to-play mobile phone games with microtransactions.
Download DLC too.
Download DLC, yeah. But overall, I can't be too salty about it because, like I said, respect where it's due. It's done a lot of great things for the franchise.
DLC is all right in its place. Stuff like the way how Extella handles DLC is decent. You get some extra costs.
It's all cosmetics,
All right,
yep.
yeah, cool, whatever. It doesn't affect the game.
Yep.
You
Everyone
still
was
get the
playing as
characters.
Tamamo in a bikini.
Yep.
No.
I got you.
No, him! Tamamo in a bikini. First thing, load the game. Behold. Is she wearing anything? Oh yeah, by the way. First draw.
I have Tamamo Cat. Does that count?
No, it doesn't.
You can get it for free when you start up the game.
Okay, really? That's not how I got her on my account, though.
Reroll.
Are you in our cosplay group? I take that as a no. We'll fix that. We'll fix that in the panel.
No.
So, okay. So, let's see what else has come out. Okay, that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. There's more. So, we recently had the release. Who's familiar with the Lord Elmaloy case files? Okay, the most hardcore typing fan in here, clearly. So, the Lord Elmaloy case files was a series of light novels and short stories about Waver as an adult. The Elmaloy case files are getting a manga, and we've seen images of it online. You can find it. It looks really good. It's not been translated yet, but we finally have a Type Moon property that's getting some attention that doesn't focus on a Holy Grail war, and that's really interesting. Has anybody else seen that?
Saw that.
Maybe a little bit. Okay. So the other thing we had this year was we saw the release of the Prisma Elia movie. which so far does not have an English translation as of yet, but
They're waiting for the DVD. They're going to do, like they've been doing lately, and they're going to do a straight English, like, factory sub.
nice.
So as soon as the Blu-rays and the DVD/DVDs drop in
Uh-huh.
Japan, it's automatically going to have access
Good deal.
to it.
So, one of the other panelists that does this with me in Georgia, James, his brother saw the movie in Japan, and he says it's really good, although he couldn't fully understand what they were talking about. But the greatest thing about the Prilliaverse in this movie is it shows Prilliaverse Shiro at his most badass. Because like this is the best incarnation of Shiro. Clearly, everybody loves Prilliaverse Shiro.
You mean a good one?
The good Shiro, right?
Hey, I did things. I did things.
But
Remember at the end when I
good
got out of the way of that arrow? That was, you're welcome.
Hey, whose advice did you have to do that?
I didn't, but I took it. I could have ignored it and died.
Go ahead, Sean.
We forgot about Holotraxia.
Yes, so I have not mentioned Hollow Ataraxia at all. Good call out. So Hollow Ataraxia is the sequel visual novel to... Who here's played Hollow Ataraxia, first of all? All right, that's what I'm talking about. So Hollow Ataraxia is the sequel visual novel to Fate Stay Night. It was released in 2005 for the PC, and it was later released in 2014 for the Vita. I own the Vita version, of course, so I've played it a little bit. I'm familiar with the story, but I haven't played the translation of the visual novel. We didn't get the translation, the full translation of Hollow Ataraxia, the visual novel, until like 2014. So very recently. But if you guys want to, that translation's out there. Go play some Hollow Ataraxia. It's good stuff.
It's interesting too. What happens if everything's
Right, pretty much. Okay, so now we're going. What questions we have about the present works before we move on? Go ahead.
You forgot to ask about the Apocrypha manga that they had at one moment, but it was only up to 15 chapters. They didn't actually went through it all the way. They had it all the way to 15 chapters, but we never got it in America.
Correct. So great call out. So the Apocrypha had the light novels, but they also had a manga with visuals. So again, none of that was translated. Have they stopped production on that, or is it just on hiatus?
Because the artist didn't know what she was doing with the actual works. She was trying to base it off the source material. The source material wasn't as what she wanted. She wanted some of the characters to die, and
Right.
like that. She actually fell in love with the characters more than the other people.
So I guess
the problem was that she had to draw them in a way that she can't draw.
Yeah.
And it was a female who did the manga. But
Gotcha.
we never got it because nobody wanted to pick up the actual thing.
I gotcha. So we'll see what as far as the anime goes, if the anime is more faithful to the light novels or the manga. But it seems like it's definitely going its own way. Okay, so now we're going to go to the future, and we're going to see what Type Moon is going to be bringing us soon.
Why are all Shinji's
あれ
smiling?
から10年か。予想より早く始まったな。
Have you guys here too?
Get him, Coop! Calm down!
...10年前の災害の原因が聖杯戦争だって言うなら戦うマスターとして戦う
Exhibit A as to why UFO Table should still be the only company doing this series.
1 week,
So
God, really?
7 days.
that guy in the church
Don't
there,
forget.
he's a kind of interesting guy. He might be pretty trustworthy. So
You should
anyway.
all trust Shinji. He doesn't do anything bad.
Okay,
He told
so
us we should always trust the guy at the church.
so all of you should know that the original Fate Stay Night visual novel didn't have one or two; it had 3 routes. So the darkest and longest route of all 3 is the Heaven's Feel route. So Ufotable is finally giving us an animated adaptation of Heaven's Feel, and everybody is beyond excited about this. So. It's going to be released as a movie trilogy. The first part has already debuted in Japan, and it's debuted in certain parts of America already. LA has already had their screening. I think New York has had their screening. We're getting our screening in Atlanta next weekend, baby. I'm so excited. So
Tickets are on sale. We will all be there.
yeah, we will all be there. So if you guys want to come see the Heaven's Feel movie with us, make a trip to Atlanta. Pre-order your tickets right now on
And I can finally
Facebook.
sit down in my costume.
Yeah, I'll be Archer in a suit. I'll be the butler version of Archer from Extella, probably. So yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So again, we have the lovely combination of Ufotable and Yuki Kajura, the best composer of all time, and you have one of the directors of. Who's the director of this movie? It's not the.
There's your staff.
Tomonori Sudo.
Okay,
It's on the screen.
Yeah.
I totally knew this and didn't stare at my computer.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out who the director was because we were worried about the director for the Aluminum Blade Works anime because it was the same director of like the worst Kara no Kyokai movie. So we were worried that like it would be the same pacing, and it kind of was for the most part. Where like the dialogue scenes are really kind of like boring, and the action scenes were really over the top and well done. But different director for the movie than for the Aluminum Blade Works series. So the next thing we have is that you guys know that I love Extella. Obviously, I've ranted and raved about it. I own it on 3 different systems, the Vita, the PS4, and the Switch. I even gave out a Nintendo Switch copy of the game during the panel at Anime Weekend Atlanta, which is why you guys should come to that panel, Anime Weekend Atlanta, because we give away good shit. So I love Extella, and I'm happy to report that Extella is getting a sequel or expansion, potentially. We don't know what it is really yet, but it's...
That it wasn't going to be in line with what we're getting with the current storyline. It's not going to continue the whole All Star story. And what's coming out next is its own thing.
Right, so it's like a CCC for Extella. It's essentially what we're getting. So it is called Fate Extella Link, and we have no release date as of yet. All we have right now is we have a new servant that's going to be playable. Astolfo's King Charlemagne is going to be a playable servant, a saber class in this, which is going to be really cool. We have updated visuals. So we have Nero looks more fabulous than ever, and we have new outfits for the master character. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hopeful we'll get some portable versions of that when it comes out as well.
But I like my Cold Theater outfit.
Yeah. No, it's. I'm really looking forward to it, but unfortunately, that's all the information we have about it right now.
Yeah, because they were planning on making a proper sequel to All Star.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. So the next thing we have that's coming out is around the same time we got the announcement for the Heaven's Feel movie. I'm sorry, for the Apocrypha anime. We got the announcement for the Fate Extra Last Encore anime, animated by Shaft, and it looks fantastic. So hopefully that we'll get our release date right now tentatively is Q1 of 2018. It's been on.
Actually, I checked, was just on the Baby's doing research for my anime stuff for Chattanooga. It is already in the confirmed section for January. So
Perfect.
it is
Awesome.
first season. It will come out January.
Awesome. So obviously I love Extra, so I'm really excited about this. It's going to be, I can already pretty much guarantee it's going to be a higher level production than Apocrypha. So a survey was taken in Japan a couple of years ago, and they asked, what are the video games that you would most like to see turn into an anime? Number 2 was God Eater, and we got that game. We got that anime. You want to know what number 1 was? What was the number 1 game that Japan audiences wanted to see turn into an anime?
I guess Extra.
Fate Extra.
I had to take a stab at it.
So-
Contact us in the arcade game.
Right. That would be funny. So really looking forward to that. Let's see what else we have coming out. We're gonna have beautiful animation and headhelds for days. Let's see. There's also a thing called Fate Grand Order Arcade that's apparently in production. So we don't really know much about that. Do you have any info on that, Sean?
The rumor right now is that it's going to work the same way that Kantai, Dragon Ball Z Heroes, and some of the other ones are, is that your servants or whatever are going to be printed out on cards. And you're going to use like RFID stuff and put them down on the plates.
Cool.
Feel
Good
in
deal.
front of you.
I was so hoping for an actual fighting game. When he said arcade, I was
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
just a fighting game with all the servants.
Yes. Okay, so we don't have a lot of info on that right now, but I just want to let you guys know that is coming. So, who here has heard of a Type Moon work that's been in production for a long time called Girls Works?
From your panel 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, we've had this anomalous thing that they've announced a long time ago called Girls Works, and it's been a running joke with us in the panel for years now because they've got no information about it. We're like,
It still says TBA.
what are we going to get first? The Tsukihime remake, Girls Works, or are we going to get, what's the other thing we weren't going to get? Oh, we weren't going to get a release date for a long time. But we just got some recent info about Girls Works. Apparently it's going to be an original anime adaptation animated by Ufotable. So we don't have any more information than that, unfortunately, but Girls Works is a thing that's actually happening. And I'm so excited to actually announce that because, it's been a running joke for years. Like, what is Girls Works? We don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's been TBA for.
Yeah. Okay. So that concludes the presentation. Let's get on to the discussion. So, you guys have any questions you'd like us to address? Basic questions, complicated questions? Can Shiki kill a type? Who would win? Power levels, anything like that? Bring it on.
Of course, Silver 9000.
Go ahead.
Why are Lancers always the ones to lose? They're always the underdogs.
I don't know, and honestly, we mentioned Hollow Ataraxia. So Hollow Ataraxia is in a lot of ways like Ku's story. It's really the story where Ku gets the most screen time and really gets to be like that hero that he deserves to be. So like Hollow Ataraxia with Bazette and Ku is almost like if you had a fourth route of the visual novel, it was a Lancer route. But yeah, to your point, Diarmuid and Ku Kulain both have E-rank luck, so they are just destined to fail in that way.
Tragic characters.
Correct. So on that note, the way that Fate Zero is written is very much like a Greek tragedy. So the characters are designed essentially to fail by the mere premise of their ambition. Yeah. And it's really unfortunate, but it makes for a very entertaining story.
Like Holy Grail War set up some path, 6 losers.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But Ku Kulain is actually a very competent servant, and with Bazette as competent as she is, she probably could have clean slate just killed all of the other masters in Fate Stay Night. So if it wasn't for Kirei taking her out at the very beginning, she could have won. The only thing that he would have had a hard time against is Hercules, because Hercules pretty much hard counters Ku. All right, next question. Yes, sir.
There was a rumor that was going around about stories behind the servants. I'm guessing Type Moon doesn't want to do it yet because they wanted to release more servants over the next year, but a lot of fans they demanded in Japan for an actual, either an anime or a manga about the servants' past lives. Because we always got, the glimpses, here's and there's about what they were, Artoria's story of how she was a Knight of the Brown. We get her that in order for her to have Mordred, she had to be a guy at one point. And a lot of people wanted to know how was that. They said magic, but they're
literally
how?
magic.
So,
but again, I know how the story happened. It just, again, a lot of people don't know how it affected all the other knights, how that particular route, because apparently that route also affected, I had his name, at one point.
Do we really need another anime about a state like
It
this?
affected him a lot to a point where it was not because of his anger, it was his rage that he couldn't control. That's what he was Berserker.
correct. Yeah, he was summoned under those pretenses.
Even
He
though
wasn't
he was
inherently
trying to
mad.
say he was not being punished, it was just he found out that Mordred wasn't as a child to him in the story. In the story, apparently Mordred was supposed to be his child, but somebody told him it was Morgana.
Morgana, yeah.
And Morgana, it's trying to have a twist to the tale. and it's trying to tell him that it was his son and that's the reason he would.
That's a really interesting concept.
But again, nobody actually, Typhoon never talked about it. They never actually did it, nor the creator, he didn't want to go through with the route. Because he says that it was supposed to be for fantasy.
Right.
But,
so, have you seen the Apocrypha anime?
Yeah.
So the Apocrypha anime does kind of address that because they basically say that through Fujinari magic, they give Artoria Pendragon a penis, and that's how she impregnates.
Once again, we're going to say. Well, it's supposed to be an 18 plus panel, but I'm pretty sure everyone in here is not below 18.
We just crossed that line.
We just went there,
over
yeah.
it.
So that is essentially the canon answer they were going with.
Yeah,
now, I
that's-
really do like what you're suggesting, though. I think that's brilliant.
So there's a dojo.
How they have been affected by
They've got the answer that you can
Lancelot. Because you have Lancelot about in the story, because they're trying to mirror the story between the actual legend, but however they're trying to make a little twist to it, make it as a Holy Grail world at that time, because apparently it was another Holy Grail world, but they didn't tell about it, they kept it as legend. Apparently they were supposed to have a story about this, but they said no about it, apparently. A lot of times.
Hold on one second. Are you guys the next panelists? Okay. No? Okay.
But again, there was a lot of here's and there's. I just didn't know if they were planning on making that. I know I was happy about Heaven's Field being in the books already because I had a brother who's more of a big fan than I am, and he already owns most of the affordable works. He loves it more than Typhoon. But I know he also loved the